the end, Lori's very efficient, don't you think? Or option 2 is better, isn't it? Phrasing the question so that the easiest response is yes. Our natural tendency to prefer to say yes than no plays an important part in the phrasing of referendum questions. Shall we approve option 2? Is more likely to get a positive response than do you want to approve option 2 or not? A good way of doing this is to make it personal. For example, would you like me to go ahead with option 2 rather than shall I choose option 2? Of giving people a choice between two options, both of which you would be happy with, rather than the choice of one option or not doing anything at all. Strictly speaking, the choice of neither is still available when you ask, which would you prefer, A or B? But most people will be caught up in deciding between your two preferences. I do this with my toddler every day.
Exactly.
Do you want to wear the red shirt or the blue shirt?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or saying you can either
the shirt is not an option.
Do your homework, or you can go up to your room and sit there, and then still have to do your homework later. Well, I'm still giving them a choice. But,
Yeah.
But they still have to do their homework.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why I heard, I had a professor who was a big believer of menus when you have a project, because you're giving your students a chance to choose, which makes them feel empowered and can be helpful.
As it says right here on the PowerPoint, leading questions can tend to closed answers. So you're giving them options. Would you like to rewrite option 2 or not? Yes or no. It's going to be pretty simple answers. Leading questions are good for getting the answer you want, but leaving the other person feeling like they had a choice, kind of like manipulating. And it's also good in closing a scale. For example, closing a scale. If that answers all your questions, shall we agree on a price? A tip, use leading questions with care. If you use them in a self-serving way or one that harms the interests of the other person, they can quite rightly be seen as manipulative and dishonest.
And we talked about that in class, like being careful not to manipulate our students.
Because as you can see with that type of questioning, it's very easy.
Mike, do you want to do rhetorical questions?
Rhetorical questions aren't really questions at all, in that they don't expect an answer. They're really just statements phrased in question form. Isn't John's design work so creative? People use rhetorical questions because they are engaging for the listener as they draw into agreeing. Yes, it is, and I like working with such a creative colleague, rather than feeling that they are being told something like, John is a very creative designer, to which they might answer, so what?
Exactly. Rhetorical questions are great for arguing with a spouse. Don't you see how much I do and how little you do? Wonderful. But we all use rhetorical questions, and as teachers, and I think a lot of times rhetorical questions we do without even thinking, right? We're just saying.
It's just part of our normal speech. Yes.
Do you want to do this? Okay, so for the end of this, a tip, rhetorical questions are even more powerful if you use a string of them. Isn't that a great display? Don't you love the way that text picks up the colors in the photographs? Doesn't it use space really well? Wouldn't you love to have a display like that for our products? Rhetorical questions are good for engaging the listener. And that is it.
Sorry, I thought there were more.
And I think they can be good for getting your point across. That should be another bullet.
And rhetorical questions, I feel as a lecturer standpoint, it engages them with still that form of lecturing. It gets them thinking along with you, but they don't really get a chance to speak.
Well, it also gives information. Like I wouldn't have maybe thought about the fact that the text does pick up the colors in photographs. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that text really
That is
does.
true.
You know, gives you something new to think about without having been told the information. You just start
Yeah.
thinking about it.
So on using these questioning techniques, you have probably all used these techniques before in your everyday life, at work or at home or school or teaching. But by consciously applying the appropriate kind of questioning, you can gain the information, response, or outcome that you want more effectively.
Lana, do you want to do the first two bullets?
Oh, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Questions are a powerful way of learning. Ask open and closed questions and use probing questioning. Relationship building. People generally respond positively if you ask about what they do or inquire about their opinions. If you do this in an affirmative way, tell me what you like best about working here, you will help to build and maintain an open dialogue.
This is extremely important with our students, right? If we're in a relationship and I went on a date and I was just like, you like the restaurant? Okay. You know, if you're not asking these questions that really have people answer and getting to know them, it's the same thing with our students. We need to be building relationships with our students, and we need to be asking them, what do you like best about class? What is working for you in this class? And I think that makes them, again, feel empowered and that their opinion matters.
Yeah, and I think one of the main points about this paragraph is the affirmative way. You want to keep it positive, because if you make it more negative, that's where their answers are going to go.
Emily, do you want to do the last two?
Sure. Managing and coaching. Here, rhetorical and leading questions are useful too. They can help get people to reflect and to commit to courses of action that you've suggested. Wouldn't it be great to gain some further qualifications? Avoiding misunderstandings. Use probing questions to seek clarification, particularly when the consequences are significant. And to make sure you avoid jumping to conclusions, the ladder of inference tool can help too. Which, did we go over that already? The ladder of inference.
We did not.
But it's a good ladder.
It's a really good tool for your tool belt.
That man has it on.
Do you guys have any questions
Write
so
that
far
one down
on
for later reference.
Ladder of
Yeah.
inference.
No, sounds good.
Do you guys have any questions, or do you have any questions so far?
I have a question. Yeah, I was wondering if perhaps you guys had heard about what technique is used in interviews so you can be prepared for which type of questioning technique is used.
Dixie?
I think that they're going to begin by open-ended, but they're going to go very specific and closed about some topics.
Is that going for the teaching?
They
Well, I
might
assume-
do, they might
Yeah,
do a
it's
funnel
almost like funnel.
if
They
it's
start
interested,
big.
Yeah.
if they're interested in it, but if you don't know the topic, they'll move to another topic, like critical thinking skills. What's your strengths?
And if they move to another topic, is that like going against you?
I would think so. If they ask you a follow-up question, then you're on the right track.